Super excited to have y'all. Even more excited to have writer and director Felicia Pride with us, and to have Leeza Jonee from the Breathing Space here as well. So let me get off these professional bios. Felicia Pride, a Baltimore native, shout out to Janira in the room, has been a writer on Queen Sugar and is developing the erotic romance feature film Deeper with Universal Pictures and Will Packer Productions. Pride sold a drama pilot to NBC's Universal Cable Productions and is a co-writer and executive producer of the film Really Love, produced by Charles D. King's Macro, who created Fences and Mudbound. If y'all have not seen those films, please check them out. Both films that we saw with Film Club. Which won a special jury prize at South by Southwest. Felicia is a film independent screenwriting lab fellow, a graduate of NBC's Writers on the Verge program as a comedy writer, and also runs the Create Daily, a resource for underrepresented storytellers that she founded in 2012. We love credentials around here. Leeza Jonee is a North Carolina-born, New York-bred, multifaceted creative, a published writer, illustrator, and photographer. She defines herself as renaissancing, having found the ability to connect her many gifts seamlessly. Leeza is also the founder, host of The Breathing Space, a benevolent, I got a list, y'all. Some things get a little hard for me. A benevolent salon series bridging the gap between personal and community responsibility. She's had the honor of speaking with classrooms through her philanthropy, as well as being commissioned for her words, visual arts, and creative direction. Through her work with The Breathing Space, she has been featured in Madame Noir and Sad Girls Club, credited as a writer for her piece, Creating Space for Conversations That Matter. Leeza is currently working on her first book. You got pre-sale out or not? Can we give you some money now?
Wait, I couldn't really hear you. I think I heard someone else's mic, but you said, do I have what now?
Do you have the pre-sale for the book yet?
Not yet, and I'll tell you why. And Felicia, you may be familiar with this. I really want to submit my book to a couple of grants and prizes, and I can't self-publish yet until I get an answer from that. And then if, I'm praying that I win, but should I, that not be in the cards for me, then I'll, self-publish and it will be available. So
everybody put your coins to the side, just in case. A collection of poetry and prose to be released later this year. Thank y'all for joining us. And I'm handing it over to Leeza. Like, she's the queen for today.
Thank you for having us.
Word, thank you for having us. I'm really happy to be a part of this. I actually studied in college communications, and my focus was on film and broadcasting. So I think this is kind of like a full circle moment for me right now. Oh. Granted, my school wasn't very creative. So like I didn't really have autonomy in my focus of film and broadcasting, but I'm here now. So this is exciting. How are you, Felicia?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I want this to be less interview style and more conversational, and I want everyone in the group, in the room, feel free to unmute yourselves and partake in the conversation as well. I do have some questions specifically to you and to you as the writer-director of this beautiful film, Tender. Okay. So my first question for you, it's almost like, where do I start? Because I kind of like wrote down so many notes. I watched this a few times to make sure like I didn't, I didn't miss anything that I really wanted to talk about. But I guess I want to know who you are. I mean, I've done my own research, but just so for everyone else in the room to know who you are. You've been writing since 2011, 2001?
2001, yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Stephanie and Be Real Black Cinema Club for having me. Thank you, Leeza, for moderating this chat. I am just thrilled that people are watching Tender and want to talk about it. So thank you for everyone for spending their time on this Saturday. I wasn't one of those who knew what I wanted to do with my life. Like, I went to Towson State to study business, because it's not like you get money, you can get a job in business. But it was there that I had a professor, an English professor, who was like, you should minor in English. You have something with your writing, which at the time was like just angry essays about my father. But they were good. They were well written. So, but I was like, minoring sounded like more money and more time. So I didn't do it. But I ended up graduating, and I was working a corporate job after graduation, and I was quickly bored. It was in marketing. I was quickly bored. So I just was looking for outlets to express myself. I started with poetry, bad poetry. Def Poetry Jam had like a forum. So I was posting my poetry and people were commenting, and some of it wasn't kind, but I was like, at least they reading it. You know what I mean? But that led me to an internship at a Black owned community newspaper out of Staten Island called Black Rain News. And basically the publisher would publish our work. And so my first published piece was a piece about, was a review of Mary J. Blige's No More Drama album, which came out in 2001. And when I saw my name in print, I was like, oh, this is me. Like, it was like a sort of validation, but also like I was talking to the world, and I was able to kind of put myself into that. So I started as a writer in journalism, as a freelance journalist, and then I went on and wrote books. Books was like my shit for a long time, still my shit in many ways, but I wrote 6 books, one of which is like my baby, which is about hip hop. And then I stopped writing for a long time, and then had to claw my way back to being a writer. So that's my story a little bit.
Is Tinder one of your first projects, like kind of like clawing yourself back in, kind of like re-entering this world?
Well, it was me. It was really about 5 years ago. I was living in DC at the time, and I was like, running a marketing consultancy, and I was burnt the fuck out. And I'm sorry, I curse a lot, but I was burnt out, and I was tired of chasing checks, and I wanted to create again. I did want to get back to writing, and a mentor at the time was like, you know what do you want to do? I was like, I want to write and create, but I want to do it for film and TV. It's like, you should move to the biggest market. And so 5 years ago, at 35 years old, I moved to LA. And so that was my first sort of clawing back. It took time because when I first got here, I worked in film distribution, but when I got laid off from that job, that's when I really like hunkered down and started to like put my portfolio together and just get back to writing.
So kind of like focusing on moving across the country, right? And focusing on writing. All right, so like for me, I'll tell you like where I'm going at with this question. For me, writing my book, I've been writing my book for like 5 years, longer than that, because it's just like a collection of poetry I've been writing, over the years. What, I guess for me, like hindrances for me were not really sure if I was ready for like the world to hear my story. Like, what was really like the driving force for you to kind of just be like, look, I'm definitely doing this. I'm definitely going to make sure I'm writing. I'm definitely going to make sure the world can hear me. Like, where was the conviction in your voice? How did you find that?
Yeah, I think it was at that crossroads of like, either I'm going to get a good government job in DC in communications, or I'm going to give this full-time writing thing one last try. It felt like kind of like the last hurrah. And so the move kind of pushed me to do that initially. But it was getting laid off that really made me refocus of why I came to LA, and also the fact that this is like my last hurrah. Like at that point, I was like 37 years old, and I was like, look, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it now. And in terms of the process of getting back there, it was basically like re-establishing my relationship with the work, because I had an unhealthy relationship with the work. I felt like the work was supposed to financially support me. I had resentment because it didn't. So I had to like basically like start courting writing again, like take it out on dates and like make it feel good, and recognize why the work is the thing. Like, it's not the accolades, it's not the awards and all that. The work is it. And so once I got a healthy relationship back with the work, that's what really helped me to like catapult from there in terms of the focus, being able to actually get projects finished, was rekindling my relationship with the work.
I love that. And shit, I'm so glad you did, because Tinder was beautiful.
Thank you.
How did you come up with the name? I mean, I know it's a very tender film, but how did you kind of settle on the name of Tender?
That's a great question, because it took a lot. We had a working title of Coochie. And then my manager was like, I don't know about that. It took a lot. And I just remember like what my homegirl, like just sending her titles and just nothing clicked. And then Tender it just felt like it just described everything. So it was just a process of like elimination. And really though, it clicking, that moment where you're like, oh, this describes exactly what I want this film to be. So yeah.
I feel that. I struggle with like giving my poetry names.
Yeah.
Sometimes like the name doesn't even fit anywhere within the poem or what I'm saying, but it just speaks to it in some way.
I'm not good at titles. Titles are challenging for me.
Yeah, very much so. When you were writing Tender, is it something that kind of like came to you overnight and you woke up and you were like, oh my God, I got to get this out? Or was it something that, like, how did it come to you? How did the story come to you?
Yeah, actually, Tender, the characters in Tender, Kiana, who's the older character, and Lulu, who's the younger character, are characters in a television pilot that I wrote called Livelihood, which is about 5 Black women who live in a gated community in Prince George's County. And that pilot is actually what got me staffed on Queen Sugar. So how I came about with Tender was like, I learned firsthand that film is a director's medium. So as a writer, if I wanted to try to protect my vision, I had to start directing. So I was like, you know what? I took a bunch of directing classes and then I got to the point where I was ready, but I still wanted to do it in a contained way. I was like, I want a story that's 2 actors, 1 location, 1 day, but still impactful. So I was reminded, I was like, oh, what about Kiana and Lulu? Because I love them because they're so much me in different ways. And I still felt like it could be a impactful story. I also felt like it could really showcase the type of stories I want to tell that center Black women, that center all different types of Black women, that center sexuality and coming to oneself and class and all the stuff that I like to explore in my work. So I took the sort of part, like their characters and sort of their relationship from the pilot and crafted it into a standalone story. Now that poured out of me, like being able to craft it in the short poured out of me. Like I think I wrote it in a day, maybe less. But then I shared it with my writers group and my manager, and then I workshopped it to get it to the place where I was like, okay, we can shoot this.
I love that. You actually answered a question I was going to ask you, because I value like my connections with women. I'm an only child. I was raised by a single mother twice. So like I really truly value those relationships, and I feel like even in my writing, I'm telling stories of other women that I know. So I wanted to know who these women in Tender directly reflect in your life, but you even said they kind of are parts of you.
They're me.
They're you, yeah.
I mean, like Lulu's a younger me, but they're also me in aspirational ways as well, right? So they're me in like practical ways and pragmatic ways, but they're also me in aspirational ways. So I wish I was more open when I was younger, like Lulu, right? Sometimes I wish I was more settled, like Kiana is now. But then also they have parts of me that, are real. Like the fear around creating, even down to like the reproductive stuff, like just exploring those aspects of these 2 characters. And then I also like the idea that their duality. So like Lulu is a younger version of Kiana. Mm-hmm. So that's also what I was kind of trying to play with.
I love it. Also kind of like touching base on reproductive now, forgive my ignorance. I feel like her surgery that she had could have been, a myriad of things, right? What exactly did she have? Like, what was her surgery?
She had a hysterectomy.
Got it. Okay. Got it. I was wondering, because as I'm getting older now, I've like questioned my doctor, like, what are the chances? Like, I want to have children, I think, so what, I just wanted to know. So thank you. Mm-hmm. Now, I also thought like there were like a lot of metaphors in this, like metaphors of life. So even like Lulu asking, did it hurt? Talking about the surgery. I think about how a lot of us, men or women kind of come out of some kind of, hurt, some kind of pain, some kind of surgery, whether, it's an actual surgery, whether it's like, us mending our, broken hearts, or like going through, even like what we're going through right now with COVID-19. I kind of want to ask people in the room, so not directly, at you, but I kind of want to hear from someone else. If someone, doesn't mind kind of like speaking up, what is recovery to you? If anyone wants to speak up.
I'll speak up. Hi, my name is Kiara.
Hi, Kiara.
Recovery. Hi, I love the film. I actually watched it right before I tuned in, so I got to watch it twice.
Thank you.
But recovery to me is isolation. Like, in order for me to recover, I need to like be away from people. And I've noticed that that's what I do. I retreat. I don't know if it's the cancer in me. I'm retreating into my shell. I don't know what it is, but I know just tuning into myself, tapping into me. And even with the pandemic, I feel like I've been preparing for this the last 3-4 years, like my whole Saturn returns. I don't know if y'all into that, but I really was going through that. So I definitely feel you when it comes to searching for, which I wrote it in the chat, but searching for that meaning that connection towards your creativity. And I feel like I lost that connection, and I'm fighting back to that too. So I'm actually grateful for the pandemic, honestly. Just getting a break from, the norm, so definitely isolation.
I would love to just comment on that because, in the pilot, so Kiana has been on medical leave, right? So she returns to work, and that's when her and Lulu connect. But she was in that isolation because Kiana her life isn't that filled out. So it was a lot of isolation that she went through. So for her to then be able to connect was a lot. It was big because it was like partly isolation, partly defense mechanism, all these things happening in the background. So I totally feel you on the isolation part. And then for her to, kind of gotten away from her playwriting and, how hard it is to get back when you're settled, you're settled, you're comfortable. Kiana does well for herself. So yeah, I totally, and that was part of my journey too, that clawing back to being a writer was really, really hard. It was one of the harder things that I've had to do.
So Tinder, in a sense, is like your recovery.
I love these metaphors because I didn't even think about it like that. But yes, like it. But what's interesting too is that Tinder is the first time as an artist that I've been able to have a say in the process of making something from start to finish. And hey, Tim, and like that is amazing. But then I'm like, damn, it took 40 years to get to this place. That's tough. So.
I mean, you know what? So like even right now, I'm a huge fan of Tabitha Brown. I know a lot of people know who she is. Like she's 41, and she's saying, who thought in all these years that it would take me this long to finally, be living my dream. So I think, that's
timing is everything. Timing is everything, and I think that sometimes we're not ready for what is for us. So we have to get ready and go through the process of becoming ready. So yeah.
I think it's also just really honoring our own paths. Like I had been part of an interview a couple of days ago, and the woman that was interviewing me was asking me, what advice could you give to someone? And I said, don't really listen to other people's advice. Like really honor like your path, like listen to it and use that advice in different parts of your life when it, relates to who you are and what you're doing. But if you fully listen to what someone tells you to do, you're going to be kind of going back and forth in this roller coaster of figuring out where you need to be. Okay, so moving on. Again, my thoughts might be a little all over the place because
That's fine. I love this.
So Tinder, taking the sexuality out of it, right? Taking the fact that it was a one night stand and just looking at like the intimacy of these two women. Honestly, I really want to know, and I want to hear from some of and not to make, gender really a part of it, but I do want to know, like, are there some men in the room that struggle with having that intimacy with other men, regardless of, your sexuality?
I'll speak up. No, definitely not. My best friend is in the chat right
Ooh,
now. You already know, Jermaine Dennis. I feel like that's a part of men for healing. Like we need that. I feel like we need to be more intimate with each other. Just how much we really appreciate each other. But as far as that question, now, I never really felt like, you know, I was inferior or I feared it. Nope, not at all.
I heard part of what you said. Thank you so much for sharing. I just wanted to tap into the healing piece of it because I think that's like such a powerful word, particularly for Kiana's experience, because she is trying to heal physically, but also emotionally. So that intimacy is part of her healing process. And I don't think that she realized that how much she needed it until she got it, you know, and I think that's also why she was resistant to it. So thank you for that, because that healing piece is yeah, it was a big part of it.
Have you struggled in your own life with like intimate, you know, relationships with the women in your life?
No, and that's why I wanted to showcase. I wanted to showcase the intimacy between Black women in particular that I have. And because I feel like Black women have held me up, have sustained me, and so I was like, I want to see this on screen. But I also wanted to explore sexuality. I wanted to see, you know, Black queer women on screen. I wanted to see sexuality of Black women in all its forms, Black women who have agency in their sexuality, the nuances of sexuality, the shame around sexuality. But intimacy and emotional intimacy was definitely like a big core for me. Like, yes, we had this physical intimacy, but like, what does it look like when you wake up the next day and you allow yourself to be vulnerable and experience an emotional intimacy? And again, that's aspirational because I ain't never had a one night stand like this ever. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm writing what I want to see.
You know what's crazy? I didn't, you know, in the few times that I've watched it, I still didn't get this, like, she woke up kind of like walk of shame based on this, like, the, based on her queerness, right? I think she woke up more so like, man, she saw my scar. Like, that was the only thing that, like, it wasn't even like she questioned her sexuality at all. She questioned, like, I don't know if I was ready to expose my body like this.
Exactly. And I think that body shame, though, can leak into sexuality. Like, I feel like Kiana has lost her sexual mojo a little bit. You know what I mean? So I think the shame around that, right? Like, where we don't feel like ourselves sexually. We're nervous about, and also it was a new experience for Kiana. This was her first time with a woman. So it was a lot of all of that going on.
Yeah. I had a conversation around, I've actually had a couple of conversations around sex and sexuality with Breathing Space. And one theme we've kind of touched on is feeling sexy. Like, is feeling sexy important, you know, around your sexuality? And I think I love that you showcase this in that way, because, like, scars aside, like, there are many different things, you know, on our bodies that we may not be willing to share right away. It's very vulnerable to be physically nude in front of someone, and the fact that she woke up like, she's like, oh my God, she's so, you know, and that's, I've gone through that. I'm like, damn, like, you know.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's why the dance piece was so important. Yes, I wanted just them twerking and dancing. Yeah. But it also was a bridge piece because I needed Kiana to feel comfortable in her body again in order to get close to Lulu. So I had to have a bridge piece, and that's what the dancing was Kiana getting back into her body, feeling good about her body, so that in the next scene she could be close physically with Lulu.
Yeah, I love it.
I just want to add something real quick if I could jump in. Like the final moment, I mean, to me, the film was, first of all, just very amazing, very beautiful. But one of the moments that really struck me was towards the ending. It finally clicked why you called it tender, because right after she just kind of opens herself and reveals that about her body, she just gives her the lightest, gentlest, tenderest kiss. And I was like, that's why this movie is called Tender, you know? And then for me, just the actresses, they did so well at that moment, just staying present to that and being truthful in that you could see that she received it, she's feeling something, but she doesn't even know how to process that. And then you're just, my question is going to, like, how were you able to just sort of really craft that moment to show her fight with herself in that moment, and then subtly and tenderly just accept it and, like, I want to order some food. I just find like that moment was just, it really, yeah, it was just so well directed and acted. And written too, like, how did you?
Thank you.
That moment. Mm-hmm.
That is my favorite moment in the film. And well, I think it's a few things. One is you spoke it's the performances, right? So our wonderful actors, Pharrell Walker, who plays Kiana, and Trishana Clark, who plays Lulu. Number one, just their openness and willingness to be vulnerable, right? That was really, really huge. We rehearsed that scene. So rehearsal was important for me prior to shooting because it allowed us to have a foundation to work from when we got on set. So that was important. I also prioritized this scene in terms of how much time we spent on it. We spent the most time on this scene because I was like, this is the most important scene. So we can sacrifice time on other scenes in order to get this right. And then it was also working with my cinematographer. I was like, I want the camera as physically close to Kiana's face as possible. I want to see every nook and cranny as I can. And that also, lends itself to Pharrell's performance because it was just all on her face. And yeah, so that's kind of how that moment was crafted, giving it a lot of time to breathe. And also just the tone on set, like, this is the most important thing. Let's give it the space. Let's give it the respect. Let's give the actors the quiet. Like I was very clear on, I wanted it pin drop quiet on set. Like I didn't want to hear anything. Like it was just so important to craft that. And then also getting the kiss. Like I was like, I don't want it to feel like too much. So I like how you kind of framed it. So getting the kiss right. We took a lot of time with that scene and I'm really, really, really happy with it. And Pharrell killed it. And Trishana, just like her like the way that she just played it. I just love it. I just love it. Thank you.
And extremely natural. Like it was perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And in the writing process, was it like envisioned in that way, or is it that the actors brought so much to it that they took it at a whole other level for you?
I don't know how much I envisioned it right when I was writing it, but when we were doing shot listing is when I really, really started to envision it more in terms of like close-ups and how close I wanted, and that I wanted. I actually like 2 shots a lot. Like I like them a lot. I know that some people don't, but I do. So like the shot listing really helped me to expand the vision more, and then how tender the scene was really going to be. And then luckily the music, I think adds a lot to it. All the music is done by a DC-based artist, Asha Santee, along with a group that Asha's in called Boom Scat. So that song just was perfect. Like I could not have found a better song. And we have a playlist if you like the music. Asha and Boom Scat put together and curated a lovely extended playlist. It's like 4 hours. If you go to bit.ly/Tender playlist, or Tender Movie has the movie, it has the playlist, it has everything, tendermovie.com.
You kind of touched upon another thing I was going to talk about with music. I was Shazamming. I remember the first time I watched it, I was Shazamming throughout the entire film. How did you find the artist?
Yeah, so music is really important to me. I write with music. I rarely can write in silence. Music is just really important. My first book was about music, and I started out as a music journalist, so it's really important to me. And I didn't start out though. Music is played in every scene except one, and it didn't start out that way. And also, I was looking at composers. I just didn't like the way that for this particular piece, I wasn't feeling composing at all. I was just like, it's not working. So my friend, who's also a writer and director, a short film she wrote called Suitable, has some of Boom Scat's music in it. And she went to school with Asha. She was like, you should check out this group, Boom Scat. And then I went down a complete rabbit hole of Asha's music, of Boom Scat's music. And I called my producer and I was like, is it weird if I have essentially these 2 artists provide all the music? And it wasn't, at least for this particular piece. And so it worked out so well.
I love that. Well, thank you. I want to also acknowledge, there's a movie, After Sex. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
No, it's called After Sex?
After Sex.
Ooh.
And it explores conversations that people have after they've had sex.
I'm gonna write this down.
Zoe Saldana's in it and Mila Kunis. They have they have like their portion, but it's like tells many different stories. So what I love about I love that you've never heard of this movie before, because I can easily see your two characters playing, their part in this film.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to know if you were inspired by any of those stories, but it's good to know that you haven't.
I haven't seen it, but I want to check it out now.
It's good. It's really good. There are some moments. I mean, I wouldn't say it's old. I think it came out like 2000, early 2000s for sure. But it's a really good film. After Sex. It used to be on that. I'm not sure if it still is, but
nice.
Yeah.
Just to jump in on that, Leeza, the film made me think about Medicine for Melancholy, which is very.
I loved that film.
And like, even though it was realistic for them not to be together, I was so mad about it. And like Pender, even though we don't necessarily know if they like, had a relationship after, it was just nice to see them together at the end. So it was like you got this, like now we have a sweet one night stand film, because Medicine stresses me every time I watch it. Because I'm like, they could have did something together. No.
Why? I love Medicine for Melancholy. And actually, Medicine for Melancholy actually was a early inspiration for Really Love, the film that I co-wrote, because I wanted to write a quiet romantic drama for Black people. So Medicine is high up there as inspiration. So yeah.
We've kind of gone over most of my questions because you've kind of touched on some of my questions without me even having to, ask them. So I do appreciate that. What I normally do at Breathing Space is I kind of open up the room, if anyone else has any more questions. I know Kyron asked this question, but does anyone else want to kind of chime in?
I had a question, if that's all right.
Yeah.
I love the film, and I'm always so fascinated by how you're able to tell such a complete story in such a short amount of time. So again, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
For the film. My question was, I know you said you wrote this in about a day. I really love the balance between the characters, that they both had vulnerabilities they exposed, because I'm used to seeing films where you have the kind of free spirit and the corporate, and it's the corporate that has to let go of everything, and the free spirit's just like their guide. But in this one, clearly they both had moments that they were kind of regretting or working through. Was that always kind of your vision, was that they were both going to have some vulnerabilities, or did it take a little bit to kind of workshop that balance between, are they going to both be vulnerable, or are we just going to explore one character?
No, thank you for that. That's a great question. It did take me a little bit of time. So in the rewrite, I definitely gave Lulu more, and gave her like her moment, when she is rehearsing the play, just strengthen that moment. Because I did want to get that nuance that you're talking about of the balance between the free spirit. Because that's like the story of my life, the free spirited versus stable. And, but I did want to give balance. And also I added the moment where Kiana kind of checks Lulu, because Lulu's like, I don't understand how you've been at that place for so long. And Kiana kind of checks her like, wait a minute,
right.
There's value in that as well. So I didn't want it to be completely one-sided either way. I did want to get those nuances in there. So that definitely took some just shaping of the script in that way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question.
I do love that you address like job security. I feel like as creatives now, and even not even just as creatives, but people who I know who have full-time salary jobs working in agencies, there's still like no job security there, but Kiana has that. I also love that, I know you guys shot this in LA, but this could easily be New York City. It could easily be Brooklyn. It could be Harlem. Like, I love that story transcends geography. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I lived in New York off and on for 10 years, and it is in my head set in DC. But you're so right. It could absolutely be anywhere, and that's why I didn't really name the city, because I was like, it's not important that much in the story. It's not a character. It's not really adding value. So
yeah. I've again talking about job security, like I've struggled with that. So it was like interesting to just I've been talking about it a lot with friends. It's certainly a topic that comes up more often than you would think. You think.
I mean, I'm struggling, I struggled with it up until I want to say the last 2 years. And I'm still a freelancer in that, I work in writers' rooms. So that's not guaranteed security, but it's more security I've ever had as a writer in my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Being able to write for TV, and then also being able to balance that with features. But again, that took me a long time to get here. So I totally understand that. It's tough. It's really hard. It's really hard.
It is, yeah. But I mean, kudos to you. You're still, from what I see and from my short time of knowing you, kudos to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions?
I want to hear about the other films. So we can, I don't know, when they're ready, we can screen those as well. Like, we want to support you. So tell us everything.
Thank you.
Send our follows, our tweets. Like, what do you need us to do? We're on it.
I mean, they're all kind of, right now, the erotic romance. I submitted a draft to Universal. Actually got studio notes last week. So that's in the writing stage. So that's going to be a while off. It was projected, but now with the pandemic, who knows? And then Really Love was supposed to be at South by Southwest, still won a prize at South by Southwest most recently. I'm not sure. I know they're looking for buyers for that film. And then I'm working on, my goal was to shoot a proof of concept for another indie feature that I've written called Alameda, which is about 3 generations of Black women in Baltimore. Based on my mother, my sister, and my niece. But since I'm not going to shoot that proof of concept, one of the things that I think I've 99 made the decision to do is turn Tender into a feature and make that the next project that I'm going to work on, because I think that just thinking about production and indie production and what that might look like, doing a ultra low budget feature that still has limited amount of characters, a limited amount of scope, will help me to get that next feature, Alameda, made, which is bigger, and I want a few $1 million to do. So, yeah.
I could see Tender being a feature. Like,
yeah.
I want to continue the story.
I could see that too. I could definitely see that too.
Yeah, so I kind of have like beats in my head. Like, we will see how they connect. We'll see after the one night stand more so, but it'll still be contained. I
feel that.
And what do you think filmmaking will look like in a post-COVID world?
I don't know. I don't have a good answer. Like, I just did a case study for Tender before this, and someone asked a similar question, and it makes me nervous to think about, and I don't want it to paralyze the creation and the continued creating. So, because one of the things that I'm really nervous about is how will indie productions get insurance? How will we insure? I'm trying to wrap my head around that. So, but I do think that there's a lot of smart people who are thinking about this, and also a lot of innovation comes out of the indie space, period. So I feel like that we may find a new paradigm in this. And I just know that I just need to keep creating. Like, I can't try to assume what it's going to look like, but I can still be thinking about things of like smaller crew, less characters, make it for less money. So that's kind of how I'm thinking.
What's keeping you balanced these days?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if I am balanced. I have been really busy.
Yeah.
Really, really busy. I start a new room next week. I released Tender this month. I was prepping for that room. I was working on a TV show development idea. So I've been very, very busy, and I think I was doing too much. But that means I haven't been able to rest. So I'm trying to figure that piece out and rest as much as I envisioned in my head.
Yes. Did the actors have to improvise?
I can't hear you though. Let me turn it up though.
Can you hear me?
You still sound a little far away.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, a little better.
Did the actors improvise all their lines, or did they stick with the script?
For the most part, they stuck with the script. I mean, one of the big like additions that I love is that there's only one fuck him in like but Pharrell was like fuck him, but like she just added all the fuck hims, which I loved. But for the most part, no, they stuck to the script. It wasn't a lot of improv at all.
Okay. All right.
Good to see you. Yeah, I always see you online, so.
But that says a lot about your writing, Felicia, because it didn't feel like, sometimes you can watch a film and the conversations are very static. And it just felt like people that just kind of know each other just riffing, So that says a lot about the way you write, for sure.
Yeah. And definitely the performances too. I think that they, when thinking about casting, it was really important to be able. So we cast Pharrell first, and then when we did when we had an in-house casting session, we had Pharrell there because it was important to see the chemistry from jump between Pharrell and who would play Lulu. So I just give it up to Pharrell and Trishana for already having a chemistry, but then also like through our connection exercises and really, really just being open to that connection. I think that helped a lot too.
In a feature, would you tell the story before that night as well? Or would you kind of start, okay. I didn't know if it would just be a continuation from what we see.
I think I may start it where my head is now, is starting it because the Friday is Pharrell's first day back. So I think that's where it would start. Okay. Back at work.
Very cool. Stephanie, do you have any more questions?
I don't. Like, Felicia, you're like a pro at Q&As because you like nail all the answers before people can even like get the questions. So
right?
I'm good. Does anybody else have any other final questions, comments, thoughts, takeaways?
I did want to shout out like my favorite scenes and like parts where you can just see the emotion without hearing anything, without dialogue, was the first scene in the bathroom. So just capturing that morning after, like any awkward moment, or awkward just experience, but I don't know if it was awkward, but from this, like she felt, I guess, just to kind of face her again was just a lot. Mm-hmm. And then, what else? And then the scene with her sharing the blunt with her, like just how she just broke down, like she just let down her guard and her walls and just, decided to come and sit down. And I'm like, if she goes sit down, that means that she was okay with this, and she kind of accepts their relationship for what it is. And I guess her only real concern was, this experience coming between her and her bread and butter. So.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. No, I love that. The bathroom scene is also a favorite of mine. That was the first scene that we shot. And Pharrell just actually told me how nervous she was. I was like, I couldn't tell. But she was great. And that scene actually was like originally like going on and on and on and on. It was like 3 minutes long. I had to, like, people who saw cuts of it, like, yeah, you should cut this bathroom scene now. I just wanted to watch Pharrell in the bathroom, but I was like, okay, we're gonna have to cut it eventually. So
I love that scene could have been in either before or after. Like, just the way she was acting, like, it could have been like, oh, shoot, like, what's about to go down? Or like, damn, what just went down,
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's mic is still
on. But, yeah. Oh, I feel like I could ask more questions, like, just, like, kind of, like, going back in my mind. I'm always so curious as to, not why, but whenever you see different, especially nowadays, right? Like weed is becoming such a figure in a lot of the shows that we watch these days, a lot of the movies we watch these days. Why do you think including like them sharing the blunt was like important in the storyline?
Yeah. I haven't thought about it so deeply. I think that I did need a connection point.
Yeah.
And I also wondered if Kiana was using weed during her recovery. So that also kind of helped to make that connection. But yeah, that was like, I needed something that was going to get Kiana to also come over to Lulu, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that it was a connection point. It was a connection point.
I feel like Lulu was extending like olive branches like the entire time, like the coffee and then the blunt and then the music and then because
she was crying, wasn't she? She was like, I didn't hear her today.
Right.
It was like, Shoshana, I was like, whatever you got to do to get Kiana to come over to you. You know what I mean? And it was Shoshana, you know, doing exactly that. So
the book even. Yeah, no, that was great. I think it really speaks to like who we are as people, that whenever we really want someone there, we don't really want them to leave, whether it's, you know, in like the grander, you know, like the larger sense of it, but like in this moment it really translated into that. So
thank you.
Very cool. Anyone else? I think we're good.
Well, thank you so much. Be Real Black Cinema Club. Thank you, Leeza and Breathing Space, and thank you everyone who came. Again, I would not have thought I'd be talking about something I directed even 2 years ago. So it's a big deal to have people who are watching Tender, watching our work, and then wanting to talk about it is just amazing. So thank you so much to all of you. Thank you.
You're more than welcome, and thank you, Stephanie. Wait, you're muted.
See, I was trying not to have a bunch of chaos and muted myself. Now I just wanted to say, like, I don't know if Jasu gave you the backstory, Felicia, but this whole like situation was kismet because something came down film Twitter about Tender, and I emailed the tweet to myself because I was like, okay, on Monday I need to find out who the distributor is so that we can get the movie and screen it for.
Wow.
Literally the next day, Jasu, who was my big sister in college, she texted me. She's like, hey, I'm working with this filmmaker. She has this film called Tender. And I was like, wait, Felicia Pride, Tender, right? She was like, yeah. And I was like, girl, I had it on my mind on Monday. This was like Sunday when we talked, on my mind to find out who the distributor was and get the film so that we could screen it for Film Club. And she was like, well, they gave me this list of people they want to reach out to, and y'all want a list. And like, I don't think nobody know about like Film Club. Like, Jermaine, no, it would be struggling to get 10 people and you know, Film Club meeting. So I'm like, who know us?
Do you know Drea? Drea Donna told us.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So Drea's just like a sis who just like helps and jumps in, is just a force. And I love to hear that Jasu, like, because Jasu and I worked together on a short film that I did years ago that I wrote it, and she helped with the release. And so we just really worked well together. So I was very excited to be able to work with her again. But that's so crazy. She did not tell me. That's amazing. I love like, you know, full circle stories like that.
No, legit. This was super like exciting for me because, you know, like just being able to give this platform to Black filmmakers, because, you know, when the Oscars So White hashtag went crazy, it was everywhere. But what wasn't everywhere was the name of filmmakers that we could support. So it was just like really important for me. I was like, I don't know who is behind this film, but we finna figure out how we gonna get it. And we're here today. So I'm just really grateful for how everything turned out. I'm grateful for this film. I'm excited for you and all the things you got coming up. Our coins are to the side, ready and waiting. Everybody make sure you follow Felicia Pride on Instagram, Twitter. Share the link out to folks. What's it saying? Oh yeah, and like if y'all aren't following Array on social media, I don't know what y'all are doing. Like Array has been killing it. They did like a 24-hour filmmaker.
Oh, yeah, the filmathon, that was amazing.
A couple weeks ago. So like if you enjoyed today and you want to know more about Black filmmakers and Black films that are coming down the pipeline, classics that you know have like fed the people for years, filmmakers who have films that have been sitting in the archive and you know have recently been unearthed, definitely follow Array as well as a resource. Jermaine also was asking what people's Instagrams are, so feel free to drop your Instagram in the chat. Be sure to follow us, B-Roll Black Cinema Club on Instagram. And we actually will have a meetup happening next week. And for everybody that's not in Brooklyn, it's Dance Africa time. I don't care that Corona has like swept the actual festival away. It's still Dance Africa weekend. And BAM is continuing in the spirit of Dance Africa. And so they'll be having like an online bazaar and they'll still be doing Film Africa in partnership with African Film Fest. And so they started on the 21st, but y'all can go to bam.org and stream films from African filmmakers. I should be having the full deets on our meetup next week because they're trying to get a director to watch the film with us. But if not, please make sure y'all go to bam.org and support. BAM is our corporate partner for the film.
Nice.
We literally can't do anything without them. We're there every month for different films. So please support them and all the great folks that are over at BAM. The VP is a Black woman of their film department, and their lead programmer is a brother. So, you know, we got to support the peoples.
I want to say one thing.
Sure.
I think it's important if you, Stephanie, and you, Felicia, and anyone else, name like 2 of your favorite films right now. I feel like I'm always looking for like a film thread of like people's favorite films, and I can't really find it. So I want to know like right now, you know, firsthand, what are 2 of your favorite films that you think everyone should see?
I love Jezebel. I love Numa Perrier's Jezebel on Netflix.
Yes.
And I love Lulu Wang's The Farewell. I love that movie.
Okay.
I'm gonna say everybody know that's in Film Club Cane River.
Yeah.
You have not seen Cane River. It was on Criterion only, but you can stream it now for like $5 or something on BAM's website. Cane River is everything.
I started watching it the other night but fell asleep, so I'm gonna start watching it again.
Circle back. It's so good. And another, it's so hard. I definitely love Jezebel. We screened that in August for Film Club. It's so hard to pick. I actually just put my top 10 favorite film video on YouTube for Film Club, and I'm gonna dig into that pot, and I'll say TV movie, very low key seemingly, but double platinum with Brandy and Diana.
Oh, I love that movie.
I haven't seen that. Really? I didn't even know they were in a movie together.
Yes, it is so good. Brandy wants to be a singer, and her dad is like the choir in a competition.
Look at that.
Come to find out, Diana Ross is her mama, and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be your mentor." And then it comes out,
her real mama.
yeah.
Oh.
And it comes out that she's her she's like, "I'm your mentor." Wink, wink, wink. But it's really her mom. It's this whole thing, and it's dope because it's promotion for the Never Say Never album. So every time Brandy sings in the movie, it's a song from the album.
Oh wow! I love a good marketing plan.
Right.
Right. Come on, marketing major. I was too, so I felt you on that. But yeah, I would say those 2 films because I revisited Double Platinum and I was like, this is a hit.
I wrote it down.
Anybody else want to drop some films while we here before we wrap?
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I think somebody else was about to go.
No, you go.
All right. So I was telling, I think Steph put this on the group's IG, and I was saying like Dead Presidents is definitely one of my favorite throwbacks. Do the Right Thing, and what was the other one? What's the other one I told you, Steph?
Let me look. Hold on. Let me open up my Instagram.
Do the Right Thing, Dead Presidents, and shoot, why can't I think of it right now?
Hold on, I got you. You said
All right.
Harlem Nights.
Oh, word. How did I forget Harlem Nights? I was just watching that on BET. They keep on playing on BET back to back to back.
That is a criminally underrated movie, man. The amount of Black star power in that film, and that so many people, Black folk included, haven't seen it or don't really know about it. I mean, that.
Well, Harlem Nights?
Yeah. It's just, it's one of those movies that, I mean, I guess I'm getting a little older, but I just feel like, I mean, Coming to America is my favorite, but that movie, again, the amount of Black star power, you know, it kind of reminds me of just some other films from the 80s and 70s that I just love to see something like that again, a big ensemble cast like that. So good call on that.
I hate it, but that's how I feel about Color Purple. The Color Purple is one of my favorite films, and it's just a movie I've been watching since I was a child. So it's like, it's just ingrained in me. Like, I just know it. So whenever I have the conversation with people who've never seen it, I forget how heavy the film is when you first watch it. Cause like, I can joke about it now, and like, we can like make fun of like the lines in the film, but you can't really do that if you've never seen it. Cause then it's just like, wow, you gotta let those emotions, you know, flow through you first. But yeah.
Mine's is The Inkwell.
Yes!
The Inkwell, and it's not a Black film, but The Good Son. Macaulay Culkin. When I was growing up, I was a big Macaulay Culkin fan.
Was he like killing his brother or trying to kill?
He was trying to kill his family. Like his mother, he tried to kill his sister. And he was very cynical. So you didn't really know it was him trying to do it. Like he would set it up, the situation, to trap them. Sorry, nigga. Yeah, I'm an oversharer. So.
Giving it up.
Okay, look.
But yeah, those are my favorite. And then a cartoon.
I'm gonna still watch it.
I don't know if you guys know, but it's Once Upon a Forest. It's a cartoon movie, and it's a really good. It's about animals, like animals, like it's like an oil spill, and they're trying to like find their family. But it's good. It's good. It's good.
That's kind of how I feel about like I love a good animated film. Chico y Rita. Do you guys know? It used to be on Netflix, but it takes place in Cuba. It's so good. It's it's so good. It's a beautiful film. It just talks about kind of similar to like what you were talking about, like following your dream, Felicia, because I think Chico was like trying to follow his dream, and then like just things kind of went left and it just didn't happen for him. But it's an animated film, and it's beautiful.
You said it's on Netflix?
Can y'all drop them in the? I'm sorry. Can y'all drop these titles in the chat so I can, I can catch them all if you.
Got you.
I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but it was. But I'm pretty sure, movies 1, 2, 3 might have it.
Yeah.
And Desi dropped Premature in the chat, which is on Hulu. Coming to age film set in Harlem. I'm definitely gonna get somebody's login for that.
Definitely gonna right.
Tahir said Dope and Kicks.
Oh, Dope
I
is good.
love
Yeah.
Mahershala and Kicks.
Those are two different movies, but
Dope. Okay, I've seen Dope.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Dope.
Yeah, Dope has Shamik Moore in it.
Yeah.
And, Kicks had
Mahershala's in it.
I'm gonna get the brother's name wrong.
Mahershala?
Kobe. He was like yeah, those are two, like, I guess maybe indie films. I'm not sure. But anyway, they're really good.
Pariah
is so good. Mahershala said that his role in Kicks helped him to get the role in
Moonlight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
We can also, guys, just so you know, you can save this dialogue. So if you tap on the dots, like in the chat, the 3 dots on the bottom right, it says save chat. So before you log off, if you want to kind of keep this, anything that we've shared here, you can save it there. But Felicia, we were talking about.
Tanya is OG Film Club member. She said Enemy of the State and Train to Busan.
Yeah. Can I ask, does anyone have a good recommendation for more films spotlighting Black queer relationships?
Pariah. I was gonna try to say that. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's another indie film.
Thank you.
Yeah, Pariah. And also BAM is streaming a part of Dance at Film Africa, Rafiki. which takes place in Kenya. And we saw that, I think, last April. It's so good. So definitely check out Rafiki on bam.org.
Thank you.
I feel like there's some more, but I'm really blanking right now.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, The Color Purple touches, upon Black queer relations. So
yeah.
Hey, Sims.
Hey.
We done gave you life and you missed it.
Oh man. Well, I'm glad y'all were getting it.
Oh, hey lady, I haven't seen you. So when she said Sims, it did not connect in my head. It's so crazy because we've been talking all the time, and I haven't seen your face.
I know. Here I am. It's great to see you again.
This is glowing. Okay, glow.
Oh, this is shine.
I stand corrected. You're right. It is
quarantine shine.
It is shining. You look good.
Thank you. As do you. Yeah.
So everybody, this is Jasu that made this all happen today. So
much respect.
Thank you. Good to see y'all.
Jasu today. But yeah, so this has been amazing. I had a great time with y'all.
And I'm going to stay updated on your meetups. This was fun.
Yes, come hang out with us. Since now we can hang out with people all over the world now. And it's not relegated to Brooklyn. Super excited about some more meetups and getting to really connect with people in LA, Baltimore, DC, Philly, Chicago, to just kind of create this network of this folks supporting Black film.
I love it.
I feel that from Breathing Space. I feel because Breathing Space is an in-person conversation that we have here in Brooklyn, but we have a lot of followers that live elsewhere and don't get a chance to partake in the conversations. And granted, there is still some kind of disconnect because there's that in-person energy that flows whenever you're having a conversation with someone. But I still love that there's this back and forth here that, it still bridges it. So I appreciate that. And I feel you. Going global is important. Now you get to connect with people all over the world just by being digital. So it's really, really dope.
Felicia, you have any closing words?
I just want to thank all of you again. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Be Real Black Cinema Club. Thank you, Leeza. Am I saying that?
It's okay.
I'm bad with saying people's names. I'm horrible. But thank you in the Breathing Space. I'm just and thank you for everybody who participated and watched. And if you want to watch it, again, you can watch it at tendermovie.com. And we also have a sign up for our mailing list because, as we move towards hopefully turning this into a feature, we're going to bring everybody into the process that way so you can stay updated on that. And then again, we have our playlist and all that there. And then also I dropped in the chat thecreatedaily.com, which is every week I send a free newsletter chock full of resources for underrepresented creators, funding, programs, fellowships, etc. I've been doing it for 8 years. So if you are a creator and just looking for additional resources, you can sign up free at thecreatedaily.com. But yes, thank you. I'm grateful. Thank you, Jasu, for all your amazing work and being such a supporter of this film as well. And yeah, thank you.
Happy to do it. Thank y'all. I'm going to have to check this recording when all is said and done because...
Put it on the YouTube.
Yes, I'll be waiting. Let me make sure my subscribe bell notifications are set so I know exactly when it's
like, comment, subscribe.
Yes.
Thank you, Stephanie, for having me. I really appreciate you asking me to be a part of this. This is really, really dope.
No, you were great. I knew you, this was so you. And I was like, how, this is such a sidebar. I want to cut this out. We put this on YouTube, maybe not. But I think there's something so important about when you have an opportunity to do something. If there's someone you feel like could really just take it to the next level, to not be too egotistical, to give space, to make space for other people. I don't have squandering opportunities is just so lame to me when we all have such amazing gifts and I can moderate all day, but there was just something specific about this film, Leeza, that I felt you could speak to in a way that'd be way more impactful than I ever could. So it was I wouldn't even be doing the film club justice, the film justice, if I just squandered it and kept it to myself. Well, I'm a moderate, I'm gonna do the conversation. You know what I mean? I think there's something just so, because of like, just like in watching you, like, this is so personal, but whatever, we family. But like in watching how you engage other women, like when we were on that camping trip, I was like, Leeza needs to lead this conversation.
I appreciate that. I greatly appreciate that. So Stephanie and I are connected through like a few mutual friends, but last summer we really connected through our mutual friend Regina. And Regina is someone who I consider very much a sister. So I loved this film and how it touched upon the intimate relationships with women, because Regina and we connect, and I hate seeing it sometimes, even though I do agree to some degree, but like the meme that people share where they say shared trauma isn't shared intimacy or whatever the actual meme is. Regina and I both lost our mothers, and we're both only children, and it's traumatic that this experience that we both share, but I think more than anything it's brought us closer. And had I not been close to Regina, I would not have been close with you, Stephanie, in this way. So I really do appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for saying yes too, because it's one thing to be like, girl, you wanna link up,
right,
for somebody to come back and say yes, so yeah. I so appreciate everybody, Leeza, Felicia specifically, for like taking the time out of y'all day to kick it with us. This was great.
It was fun. It was so much fun. Thank you for creating and making space for Black filmmakers to talk about their work. It's a big deal, so thank you.
Hell yes, absolutely.
I feel like it's my obligation. So I could say like, thank you and you're welcome, but it's just an honor for me to even be able to do this. Like, I feel like this is my work, like I'm not necessarily creative, but like I've been placed here to support creatives. So I'm happy to do it. So.
I got to say, you're very creative.
I am creative.
Go into detail, we'll leave it there. Yes.
I ain't finna sit down and make nothing. I don't know how to sit down. Jesu known me since I was 17. So like,
oh wow,
like Jesu has known me for 17 years. Come August.
Wow.
True. Yeah.
Wow.
Going way back.
That me make sure I did my homework. Make sure.
She's official.
So
I love that.
But thanks again, everybody, and have a happy Saturday.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.